take this time just to say thank you for another good to me blessing I really don't deserve. But because of your grace, I have another blessing on display. Lord, I thank you for a good to me blessing. Oh, Lord, I take this time to say I thank you for another way you made. Had it not been for you, my life would be so through. Lord, I thank you for a good to me blessing. Lord, I thank you for another good blessing. Father, it's been your mercy that's kept me daily. And because of your grace, from sin I'm free. Lord, I know you bless me every day, but your blessings come in different ways. Lord, I thank you for another good blessing. Oh, Lord, I take this time to say thank you, Lord. Another way you made. Had it not been for you, oh Lord, I thank you for a good to me blessing. Lord, I thank you for another good blessing. Oh, Lord, I take this time to say thank you for another way you made. Had it not been for you, thank you for good to me blessing. Oh, thank you for blessings. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Jesus. Thank you. You've been better to me than I could be to myself. Made a way out of no way. Let the sun shine on a cloudy day. I was sick, you healed me, yeah. You've been good to me. Can't nobody make me doubt you, because you've been so good to me. Made a way out of no way. You've been real good. You've been real good. Better than mama, better than daddy, better than sister, better than brother. So good. I tell you, you've been so good. So good. You've been so good. When I run out of words, I say, good. Sometimes you can't find the right words, you say, good.
Well, praise the Lord, everybody. This is a day the Lord has made, and we are going to rejoice and be glad in it. Welcome to Midday Bible Study. Listen, I believe the day is going to be life-changing for you. I believe your faith is going to be stretched. I believe your desire to walk with God is going to be increased after hearing the Word of God. For it's the power of the Word of God that strengthens us to be able to do things that we never even thought we could do. So do me a favor, make sure you text somebody, inbox somebody, make sure you hit that share button. That's right, hit that share button and help me spread the gospel of Jesus Christ literally around the world. That's right, this message is going all around the world because of people just like you. Let's get ready to go in and receive what God has for us on this day. In today's session, I'm going to talk about how to identify unhealthy relationships in your life. I think most people are oblivious to how significant and important great relationships are in your life and how essential they are for our well-being. And so knowing that, then it behooves us, and it is essential for us to take the steps to protect ourselves from those persons, those groups, those relationships that have the potential to be damaging to our health, both mentally and emotionally, even spiritually. Unhealthy relationships, ladies and gentlemen, can have a significant detrimental impact on your health and your well-being. It can affect your happiness. They can affect your perspective. They can certainly affect your self-imagery, your self-esteem, your viewpoint, your vantage point. And because they can have such a widespread effect in areas of your life, then again, it behooves you and I to streamline our company, to assess those who are attached to us, those who are acquainted with us, to be very sure that every single relationship that you and I are engaged in or have interaction with, they are healthiest that they can be. Now, the problem is most of us have some engagement with toxic individuals. And toxic relationships are for sure detrimental. They can even be abusive. They can cause you to question yourself. They can induce in you self-doubt. And so you have to be very sure that you are scrutinizing every person in your life that you are granting access to, and even those that you are considering granting some access to into your life, that you have to be sure, as much as you can, be as discerning as you can, to make sure that you are entertaining relationships that are going to enlarge you and that are going to expand you and that are going to be a place of safety for you. Now, here's the reality. While no relationship is perfect, there isn't any relationship that I have ever known, ever been a part of, ever seen through the means of counseling individuals. Let me tell you, no relationship is perfect. But it is important to recognize the signs or begin to notice the indicators of an unhealthy relationship and know what to do, either to change it or to end it. How tragic is it when we are equipped with the knowledge to know when things are toxic, and we are privy to understanding signs and indicators when things are bad for us, but we choose to ignore them and we proceed into these relationships and become further damaged unnecessarily, all because we would not heed the signs and simply either employ measures to change it amicably, change it through understanding and knowledge of each other, or to decide that this has got to come to an end. Now, ladies and gentlemen, unhealthy relationships, no question about it, they contribute to perhaps the majority of the stress and the tension that you are under currently. Now, again, I'm not strictly talking intimate relationship. I can be a relationship, parent-child relationship, sibling relationship, work relationship. But whatever the definition of the relationship is, a great majority of the tension and the stress many individuals experience in their life can be attributed to the relationships that they are involved in. There is tension, there is conflict, there is stress, and it is not just limited to, again, a love affair or a work relationship. This is probably more prominent and more prevalent in family relationships than anyone wants to let on to. It amazes me that a great deal of the conflict and the stress that we experience relationally comes from family, comes from family members. And that's a whole nother dynamic because it always amazes me how the people who should have nurtured us and should have supported us by instinct can be jealous, can be envious of you. And that's a whole different dynamic that comes with its own tension. But you have to be able to recognize the signs of unhealthy relationships when they are spiraling to a healthy place, or when they were unhealthy from the beginning, but again, you chose to ignore it, decided to proceed as planned with it. And then you get angry with the other individual for how they're acting, when the reality of the matter is they pretty much acted the same. They were consistent in their inconsistency, but you chose to go with it. And so nonetheless, I think one of the greatest indicators of unhealthy relationship is a poor communication, a poor line of communication. The communication is ineffective. This might involve you don't talk about your problems. Everything seems to be swept under the rug. Everything that you have a concern about or an issue with seems to get the reply, we'll talk about that later. We'll deal with that another time. And there's a pattern of avoiding difficult issues. And it can come down to you even expecting the other person to be a mind reader. Hear me when I tell you that the only way communication is accomplished in any relationship is that you have to verbalize it, and that you have to be in receipt of knowledge from the other individual, that they have heard it, they understand it, and they interpret it, right? Because relationships are going to be doomed as long as you are under the impression, well, they know what I mean. You know, they know how to read between the lines. Ladies and gentlemen, nothing contributes to more of an unhealthy relationship than a poor line of communication. When you lack the necessary skills that are so vital to be able to communicate effectively with each other. When it's a tragic thing when I'm walking around upset with my partner or the individual that you are involved in, and you're mad at them and they have no idea why. And when they inquire you as to why you're upset, you say, well, you should know, or you don't know me. Well, relationship is about constantly knowing, learning the other individuals, right? So stop thinking that the other person is a mind reader. The only way you can kind of zero in on a person's feelings for you is when you communicate what you like or do not like, and they do it or continue to do it. Now you can X off that they're not doing it because of ignorance. It's now an intentional act, right? But as long as you're walking around bottled up emotionally, well, she should know what I like, and he should know, I don't like this and that. Communication is so vital. No one is a mind reader. Stop getting defensive because I can't interpret your silence, right? You have to verbalize your wants, your needs, your desires, right? Now, there are some things naturally that you're going to pick up about the other person. They're going to pick up about you. Everything doesn't necessarily have to be said, but to ensure that there is no misunderstanding, to ensure that you're going to be what they need you to be in that particular moment, then it has to be communicated. And I can't tell you how many relationships spiral downwardly rapidly because of the inability to communicate. Now, there are some signs that I think you should use to kind of check out some of the relationships in your life and to see if they are long-term healthy for you or if they're going to be sort of cancerous. They're going to slowly come to a place of demise, and it's going to cost you time, emotional investment, and that you cannot get back. But I think there's some signs that if we would adhere to, that if we would open our eyes and become conscious of, that would cause us to avoid some unnecessary, potentially unrecoverable emotional damage. How do I know if I'm in a relationship that is unhealthy for me? Number one, it's crippling and not a conducive environment for your personal growth, self-expression, or evolving. Now that is vital, because anytime you express your desire to be more of an expanded individual, almost always it evokes a rageful resentment toward you because of your desire to want more or to be better and to have more out of life, because you not only desire it, but you understand that you deserve to have the kind of love that you're supposed to have. Now, incidentally, let me remind you, or let me say to you, that everybody does not have the capacity to love you at the level you should be loved. And so the problem is that most of the time we compromise and we settle for the capacity people can love us at, rather than holding out, right? Waiting for the right person to come along who has the capacity, the compassion to love us at the level that we deserve to be loved. A great deal of the tension is that you are connecting with people and your capacity levels are totally different. This is all I can give, but this individual needs more, right? And so when you're giving as much as you can give and the other person needs some more, then ultimately the friction is going to become so overwhelming that the only option and the safe place for your heart and your mind and your spirit is going to be to detach and to disconnect, right? Because there's nothing more frustrating than loving and loving and loving somebody. Here's the issue. The problem is not loving hard. The problem is not getting loved hard in return. I hear people say it all the time, you love too hard. No, it's not that you love too hard. You're just loving someone hard who doesn't have the capacity to match your level of giving, your level of intimacy, your level of commitment and compassion towards you. And so that relationship has the potential to become doomed if things aren't changed and addressed and adjusted. When you're in a relationship and it's crippling, it's not an environment that fosters your personal growth, your self-expression, or involving. You want to be in relationships with people who challenge you. Hey, let's read this. Let's find a book to enlighten us together, right? And I think that's important to understand in relationships. The more things you can do together, as opposed to saying, well, you need to do this so you can become more, I think it's more accepted. It becomes more palatable. People's guards have a tendency to go down when they realize that you're not talking at them, but you're talking with them and saying, let's do this together. Let's have a relationship that we are both interested in our self-improvement, our self-expansion, our evolving. So, because the problem is you never want to grow without the person that you're connected with, right? You want to be at a place where you're with someone who wants to grow with you, who has an appetite for advancement in every single area of their life. Because healthy relationships, ladies and gentlemen, should offer and foster safe spaces for personal growth. Watch this, and contribute to your becoming. All right. If you're in a relationship with me, whatever definition that relationship is, if we are in some level of covenant together, then that means I have the responsibility, or I've chosen to accept the responsibility and the role of being a person that contributes to you becoming. I should never be content with leaving you the way that I found you, in the regard of in improving your life, or helping you see things from a different vantage point, or seeing life from a broadened perspective and from a deeper level of experience. Now, the reality of the matter is you should be with someone who is contributing to your becoming, people who are not intimidated by your desire for growth and happiness. Now, the problem is anytime your happiness has to be sacrificed for the survival of that relationship, then it's already done. Let me let that sink in for a moment. Anytime your happiness has to be sacrificed, anytime the stipulation or the prerequisites within the confinements of that relationship is the sacrificing of your happiness in order for the relationship to thrive or to flourish, then it's pretty much done already. No relationship can survive and be healthy, right? And be beneficial for all involved if the only way the relationship can survive is that I have to sacrifice my own happiness. Ladies and gentlemen, what happens is the other person or persons become internally frustrated. They become discontent, dissatisfied, and gravely regretful about their decision to enter the relationship. The problem is, what most people don't realize when they are sacrificing their own happiness in order for the survival of that particular relationship is that they're always going to be miserable beyond their ability to define or articulate. Because there are people now who are in relationships that the only reason the relationship is still existing is because they have decided that they're going to prioritize someone else's happiness for the survival of the relationship. In other words, they sacrifice their own happiness for the relationship to exist, and that's not a long-term sustaining model. You have to reevaluate any relationship that you're not in the space to grow, to evolve, and have self-expression. Now, the second thing that I want to say to you in regards to these unhealthy relationships, how to really identify them and to take note of them, is that it takes more of a negative toll on you than it's providing a feeling of total bliss, enjoyment, and excitement. I know that I'm in a place that's unhealthy for me because it's taken more of a negative toll on me psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, even physically. It's taken more of a negative toll on me than it's providing a feeling of total bliss, enjoyment, and excitement. Now, if you feel like you're in a relationship that is draining your energy, always seems to leave you exhausted and spent, no doubt It's causing your level of enthusiasm and hopefulness to diminish for the resurgence of the passion you once had for it. Now, I want that to sink in because there are a lot of individuals who are saying, I'm going to give it more time. Now, understand in this particular aspect of this relational presentation, my question to you is, how much more time are you going to keep giving them to prove to you that they are a waste of your time? How much longer? I mean, seriously, I'll wait another 3 months, another year, another 5. How much more time are you going to keep giving to people to prove to you that they are a waste of your time? I know this relationship is unhealthy because it's suppressing my bliss, my joy, I should be enjoying you. I shouldn't be enduring you. Let me say that to you again. You should be enjoying them, not enduring them. They should be enjoying you, not simply enduring you. Because if you're in a relationship of any kind and it's taking this kind of taxation on your mind and on your heart and on your spirit and on your will, and you keep feeling so drained and internally you feel miserable, chances are that all of the enthusiasm and the passion that you have lost perhaps may never be recaptured or regained for that relation or that type of relationship again, because it's unhealthy. And at some point, you have to be grown enough to say to yourself, this is no good for me. And the challenge with that is, because I know what it's like to have something that's no good for me, but feels good to me. Every one of you do. You know this is going nowhere. But for now, I want this. This is the feeling. This is the feeling, the excitement that I want. But the truth of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, at some point you have to wise up and be grown enough to say to the other individual, and most of all, say to yourself, this is going nowhere. You know it's not going anywhere. You've seen this before. You've seen this particular cycle. And in your heart and your spirit is telling you, this is not going to go anywhere. It's unhealthy. And so it's never going to be fulfilling. It's never going to be fruitful. And it's not going to be something that belongs in your future. I say it all the time. Just because they want you don't mean they deserve you, right? And so you have to determine, is this an unhealthy pairing, partnership, covenant? Am I in this because of covenant, or am I in this because of convenience? Am I connected with them because this is covenant? This is meant to be. God said this. My heart is telling me this. Or am I connected in this because it's convenient? And it doesn't require much responsibility. Doesn't require much accountability on my part, on the other individual's part. It's just convenient. But ladies and gentlemen, you'll look around and your life is passing you by and you're not growing with an individual. You're not building with a partner. You're not doing anything that's going to outlive you in your lifetime, because you are so consumed by the convenience of relationships that are at the core unhealthy for you, and for some reason you cannot let go. Ladies and gentlemen, again, no one can make that decision. It's a matter of maturity. It's a matter of self-reflection. It's a matter of, do I want to keep taking myself through these same kind of hoops and circles And ultimately, I know it's unhealthy situation for me. Number three, you know that you're in this unhealthy relationship that's not really conducive for who you are, who you've been called to be, or whatever your assignment, whatever your gift in, whatever you're supposed to be doing in life in terms of your purpose, is because they hold you responsible and accountable for their emotional instability. Now, hear me really well. If you are involved with someone who tends to blame you for their anger, their problems, their stress, and you find yourself in a place where you're always trying to defend yourself or trying to be understood, newsflash, they're never going to get it. Now, I really hate to be the one that kind of breaks that to you, but the reality of the matter is, if you're in any kind of relationship and you are the butt of the blame, right? Why you angry? Because you did this. Why you sad? Because you didn't do this. Why are you feeling this way? It's because of you. And you're in this unhealthy relationship that's dismantling your confidence. It's destroying your esteem about your ability to operate and process and maintain a relationship. And as long as they keep blaming you, then you spend the majority of the time in that relationship being consumed by trying to defend yourself for something you didn't do. He's blaming you. She's blaming you for what the person before you did. She's blaming you for what the father didn't do, right? And you're in a relationship where all you're doing is defending yourself, and you are struggling just to be understood. And it's going to be mentally debilitating. It's going to be depleting on you. And the reality of the matter is, sometimes, let me not even say sometimes, the majority of the times, the majority of the cases in relationship structures like this, it just doesn't work. Because hear me, when I'm not going to spend all of my time defending myself to you, to anybody, right? And I'm not going to be the butt of the blame. This is a person who has unresolved issues. This is a person who has bottled up emotions that will lash out at you for something that, again, you didn't do, but somebody else did. And because what you did remotely resembled that same pattern, now you are reaping the backlash from other people and from moments you weren't even in. But what I want to tell you, that the relationship is unhealthy whenever they have assigned you to be the individual that has to be responsible and accountable for their own emotional instability. I have enough weight on me to keep my emotional state in check without having to deal with the baggage and the blame of you telling me that I've got to be responsible for your emotional instability. And if you know individuals like that, I promise you, you watch them for a year, 3 years, 5 years, you will see they can never maintain a long-term relationship. And whenever the relationship ends, you can best believe it's never their fault. They never did anything. Nothing they did was ever questionable. It's always the other individual. And that kind of relational dynamic rarely has any hope of being successful, because it's just not healthy from the start. The next thing I need you to understand when we're talking about identifying these unhealthy relationships in all of our lives, because they're there. Just because you haven't really paid close attention doesn't mean they're not there. But when you start surveying and evaluating these relationships that are in and around our lives, then you will begin to see, perhaps I've been harboring some unhealthy relationships. I've been wondering why my spirit is always low when I come around them, and why I always get this feeling something is uneasy. It's because you have in your circumference, you have people around you who are unhealthy for your environment. Next thing that is critical is that the conflict and arguments are a common occurrence. Now, hear me when I say everybody who's in a relationship, who's ever been in a relationship, you understand that if you're in a relationship with anybody, you're going to have some conflict. No question about it. I don't care what the definition of the relationship is. There's going to be some conflict. There's going to be some disagreement. Of course, that's just the nature and the dynamics of merging with other individuals. Your personality, your background, your experiences, your history, your upbringing, meshing with theirs. Of course, there's going to be some conflict. But hear me when I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, your relationship, healthy relationships, were never supposed to be determined or defined by conflict or fighting or blaming each other or disastrous antics toward each other, right? Healthy relationships are not defined by conflict and fighting, although there's going to be some conflict, although there's going to be some days you get on her nerves, she gets on your nerves. There's going to be some days, listen, I just need to take a walk, clear my head. That's not abnormal. In fact, that is healthy. And if I had time to go into that, we would. But that's some healthy things to do in order to embellish and to undergird the relationship. But I mean, you have conflict every day. There's not a week that goes by where you don't have an argument or five. There's never a moment when you're on the same page, when you are in agreement with each other. There's never a moment when some compromise comes from you, compromise comes from the other person or individuals in your life. Because remember, ladies and gentlemen, it takes two people to argue, right? And somebody else's unreasonable or crazy behavior is never an excuse for you to do the same. There's nothing that is more irritated and frustrated than when somebody's trying to fight with you and you're not giving them any fight back. You know what I'm talking about. They're arguing, saying their piece, and this and that, and you're just there. You're like, And they become more enraged and more angry because you're not replying with the same degree of intensity or enragement as they are. And you have to watch it, because some people only feel alive when they're killing you emotionally, killing you with their words, trying to belittle you, trying to berate you, trying to talk down to you. And if you're in an environment or any kind of relationship where it seems to be characterized and seems to be defined by continual conflict, which means, incidentally, that if there's always conflict, that means no one's taking the other person's expression of what they like or don't like that serious, right? Because generally, when you have these kind of continual conflicts, it's about repetitive issues, right? So I told you I didn't like this. You told me you didn't like when I do this. And so at that point, I have to make the decision to modify my behavior, modify my speech, or adjust my actions so that it's very unlikely this will happen again. And so after we've discussed certain things and we still keep having the conflicts about the same things, one of us or both of us are not taking each other seriously. And again, that is a recipe for disaster. And it's also a clear-cut sign that what you're in, or what you're even proposing to become or get yourself into, is unhealthy. And you should avoid that at all costs. The next thing, as we're talking about really how to process and identify these unhealthy relationships, is because the bad is getting worse, right? All those things that were negative that we discussed, that we talked about, that we addressed with each other. Hey, this is I would rather you do this. I would rather you change this. And the things that were negative have not as of yet turned positive. What do? Because ladies and gentlemen, the earmark of unhealthy relationship is that they're filled with negativity. Always negative. You're talking negatively to each other. You're talking about each other to other people negatively. And so you have this negative environment that you seem to be encased in. And if you're not careful, these types of relationships will bring out the worst in you. You probably know what I'm talking about, because I know what I'm talking about. You get in certain relationships over the course of your life, and you can adapt other people's ways. You can adopt how they process and deal with others, right? And then you find yourself dealing with people just like they dealt with you, even though before you met them, you would have never done anything like that. You would have never handled anyone this way. You would have never talked to anybody in that kind of tone. But because you have assimilated, unhealthy relationships will always cause you to assimilate and adopt their bad habits, the way they treated you. And you find yourself, check this out, treating others the way you did not want to tolerate somebody else treating you. Have you ever done that? Have you ever, because when it's in your environment, it will subtly become a part of you if you don't recognize it and can't. I've heard people say, and even me, there were some things I heard my father say, or mother, or grandparent, whoever. And I said, man, I would never say that to my kids. And then you grow up and you say something to your child, and then something hits you in your head and you say, oh my God, I'm doing just like they did to me. Right? And so once you become aware of that, you can address it and you can abandon any further line of behavior in that regard. And so you know you're in an unhealthy relationship because it's filled with negativity. There's always put downs, always criticism and insults, which incidentally is emotional abuse. And you'd be surprised how many people just tolerate it with the hopes that things are going to change and that they're going to get better. And then reality kicks in a few years later, that not only did it not get better, in fact, it got worse. And so you're in an unhealthy, unproductive relationship that will not be sustainable long term when the bad just keeps getting worse. Nothing negative has been addressed. I can't look back and say, oh yeah, we changed this and this changed for the better now. And look at how much better we are at communicating. Look at how much better we are now at respecting each other. Look at how much better we are at listening to each other. And so whenever you are in those kind of relationships, ladies and gentlemen, please hear me, it's unhealthy. And it becomes your decision to employ every effort possible to see if we can change. Or have you tried all of them? Now have to make the decision, okay, this is done, right? For my own self-preservation, for my own state of mind and mental health, I have to get rid of these unhealthy relationships. How do I know this is an unhealthy thing for me? Hear this, because you start feeling worse about yourself and not better. Watch out for any relationship that does not make you a better you. And that's critical for somebody who's looking at me right now. Because you remember there was a time you thought more of yourself than you do now. There was a time you were dreaming bigger than you are now. There's a time you were expecting more out of life than you are now. And what's the factor? Look at the relationships in your life and look at how many of them are imposing fear. Look at how many of them are causing you to reduce who you are just to maintain the company that you keep. What a tragic state of affairs it is for you to have to reduce who you are just to keep the company that you have. I hope for another day that you never allow yourself to be okay with dummying down for another person another day in your life. You got to be in relationships that build you, not relationships that judge you, that make you feel bad about your experiences, bad about your past, because healthy relationships are about acceptance. They are about compassion again. They are about saying, listen, everybody has a past. Whatever you did, you did. Whatever I did, I did. But that does not give me a license to constantly throw that in your face, to use it to demean you, to demoralize you, to make you feel less than who you are. And so healthy relationships, ladies and gentlemen, always make you feel better. They make you want to be better. There is no better compliment, at least in my opinion. One of the great compliments that a woman can give a man that they're in a relationship with is, you make me a better person. I'm better because of you. I'm better because of your example, because of your impartation, because of your input in my life, because of your example. I'm better because of it. Everybody needs to be in a relationship that makes them feel better about themselves, that makes them see themselves in an elevated state, that makes them and allows them to see themselves like no one before them ever made them see themselves, right? You got to be in a relationship that that supports you at your core, supports your dreams, supports your values, pushes you to live up to the level of your capacity and potential. Not relationships that try to marginalize you and push you in the corner and relegate you to only being able to do one thing. You got to be in a relationship with somebody who thinks you're great and wonderful and spectacular. Otherwise, why are you here? Right? I got to be in a relationship. I require too much attention. I got to be in relationship with people. And there are people out there who have to be in relationship with individuals that are going to complement them, right? We just fit. We complement each other. We are compatible. And ladies and gentlemen, whenever you are in any kind of relationship where you feel worse about yourself than you feel better, then it's time to reevaluate that and decide, how much longer am I going to drag myself through this emotional massacre without expressing how much I care about myself? This is why I got to get out of this and do it pretty quickly to retain my sanity. And so you got to be aware of any unhealthy relationship that is around your life. How do I know it's unhealthy for me? Because here's one of the big ones, and it is that the focus is always on the other person. They're the star of the narrative of your lives together, and you play the supporting role, the background, not even supporting, an extra in the film. They're the headliner, they're the star, and the focus in that unhealthy relationship, the focus is more about changing the other person rather than working on changing themselves. You need to change. You need to do this. You need to do this. You should do this. I think you need to do that. I think you need to do that. That is a telltale sign that you're involved and that you're in a relationship that is unhealthy, right? Anybody who feels like they do not have to change, trust me, they're not for you. They're not for me. No matter what I think I know, I can know more. I can learn more. You cannot come to people feeling like you're in your final cut state and they're still in the edited state. You got to constantly edit them and edit them and edit them. But you're the perfect final cut. That's just not reality, and that's just not the recipe for any kind of successful relationship. In any mutually respected relationship, you don't want to try to mold somebody into your ideal person. That's the mistake a lot of people make, a lot of couples make. I counsel a lot of people, and You get them to by themselves individually. She's trying to make him this. He's trying to make her that. Instead of understanding that you two are individuals and you have to honor, respect, and love what it is that you individually are. And then you have to bring that together to become the best version of yourselves together. It's not just about focusing on the other person. If there's anything that will contribute to chronic unhappiness in relationship, it is when your focus is always on changing the other person. You don't know what that does to their esteem, their morale, feeling like they don't measure up or they'll never be able to measure up to what you want. And the reality of the matter is the relationship should be, the focal point of the relationship should be you two. Not this one, not that one. You're in the forefront, they're in the background. No. The focal point should be the relationship as the entirety. And so I know I'm in an unhealthy relationship when the focus is always about just that person wanting to change me or me wanting to change them. It should be a mutually understood, decided, talked about change that will happen with both of us, that will affect us as a unit together. Please hear me. Most people make the mistake of losing themselves trying to find someone else in the relationship. As much as you may think you need someone else, hear this, you need yourself more. Now, I want that to sink in, and I want you to remember that the rest of your life. As much as you and I even think we need someone else, and we do, the reality of the matter is you need yourself much more. So if you find yourself in relationships that stunt your growth and can only survive at the expense of your own emotional survival, it might be time to cut some losses or to go into a place of clarity, a place where you need to reevaluate, can this be changed? What needs to happen for this to change? Am I willing to go through the process of what's necessary for the change to occur? Or am I going to simply just cut my losses? As I see this is not going to get any better without the right guidance or the right help. I'm not saying that it's totally lost. I don't know your individual circumstances, but what I am saying is that the decision has to be made. Am I going to change this, or am I going to cut my losses? Because I cannot afford to allow my emotional health, my mental stability to be dangled at the end of an unhealthy relationship.
Well, I don't want to assume that every one of you who are watching me on this day is saved or have a relationship with Jesus Christ or even has a church home. I don't want to make that assumption. I want to know for sure, and I want you to know for sure, that if Jesus Christ was to come back now, that you would absolutely go back with him. And if you're not sure, my brother, my sister, this is the day to get sure. All you have to do is receive Jesus Christ in your heart. The Bible says if you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that God raised Jesus from the dead, you are, from that moment, you are saved from the top of your head to the sole of your feet. And if you're watching me and you said, I am one of the ones, I am submitting to the leading of the Holy Spirit, I'm submitting my life to him, there's an email address right here at the bottom of your screen. I have staff on standby right now that are waiting to help pray you through and help further facilitate the decision that you have made this day for Jesus Christ. The angels in heaven are rejoicing, and so am I, because now you are a part of the kingdom of God. Well, it's time to bless the Lord all over the world. That's right. You're a part of our global worship experience as we worship the Lord in our giving. Giving is an act of worship as we bring unto him a portion of those things that God has so graciously gifted us and graced us to have. We honor him when we do so. First of all, as you prepare the Lord's tithe, he told us that we ought to bring all the tithe into the storehouse, that there might be meat in the house of God. When he's talking about meat, he's not talking about steak and salami. He's talking about fresh revelation. That every time you would tune in, every time you would be a part of this service, that you would hear and be the recipient of fresh revelation. Tithing keeps the heavens open over your lives, where God continually begins to outpour favor and blessings on your life. As you are preparing your offering this day, I want to challenge as many of you that will stand with me, those who can do it, those who feel the leading of the Holy Spirit to do it. I want you to get a $33 seed offering today. I just sense in my heart that it's going to trigger what I see is like an avalanche effect, that when the seed hits the ground, blessing upon blessing upon blessing are getting ready to be released and revealed in your life. Not just monetarily, but answers you've been needing, clarity you've been needing, directions you've been waiting on, calls you've been waiting to get back. I believe that this seed is a trigger seed. It's going to trigger those things that you've been needing and that you've been wanting from God. The giving means are right here at the bottom of the screen. Find the one that's most convenient and take advantage of it. If you don't want to give electronically, make sure you take advantage of being able to mail your seeding. That's right. There's a mailing address right here at the bottom of your screen. Get a stamp, an envelope, a money order, cashier's check. Send the seed in. We're going to pray over it and pronounce God's blessing over your life. You're in a season of divine overflow and abundance. Keep on giving. God's not through giving back to you yet.
Family, didn't we enjoy the presence of God on today? I know service was just amazing. I know you felt the presence of the Lord right there, wherever you're watching us from. Right now, it's giving time, and we want to make sure that we sow into the man of God's life. He's delivered a powerful word to uplift us and teach us and to encourage us and strengthen our faith. And now is your opportunity to participate in sowing a seed into the man of God's life. So easy to do. You can go to his personal cash app at $ Henry W. Bolden 3. Yeah, that's right, $ Henry W. Bolden 3. Or you can go to his personal website at henrybolden.com. Go ahead, sow a good seed into the man of God's life. God bless you.
Well, my time has come and gone. Today has been an amazing day of worship with you at this midday hour. I want to thank all of you who've taken your lunch break to be with me, those of you who've taken your off day to spend some time, or those of you who are right there at your desk and got me right here in your earbuds. I want to tell you I appreciate you for spending this midday time with me today, and I hope it has blessed you beyond definition. Don't forget to make sure you send out a text, a tweet, an inbox to as many people that you know that did not get a chance to tune in today. I want you to tell them to meet me here tonight. That's right, tonight at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. They can join me for our nighttime edition of our Bible study, and it's going to be amazing. Don't forget that if you're not connected with me on our social media platforms, make sure today is the day you do that. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, go to Henry Bolden on all of those platforms. And don't forget to go to henrybolden.com, my website. You can sign up for my newsletter and get all the latest scoop on what I'm doing, where I'm going to be. It's going to be a blessing to you. There is a blessing in connection. All right, well, I'm out of time for now. God knows I hate to leave you. But as I always say in parting, that things can change for you at any moment. I'll see you next time.